It's First Take on a Wednesday. Good morning. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam in the house. How we doing, gentlemen?
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Fantastic.
I cannot compete with that ensemble that you're wearing right now, Stephen G.Q. Smith. I'm out. I give up. It's yours.
Well, I deeply appreciate those very, very kind words, but I would like to point out that in my opinion, I'm usually dressed better than you, Skip.
Oh, well, now, see, I give you a compliment, and you even shoved the compliment in my face. Touche.
A gratuitous shot.
Well, I must admit, you have been looking quite dapper lately. You have upgraded your wardrobe, and the pocket square you have down pat now. No. I am pleased.
It was always right where it is now.
I'm with you, Stephen A.
But we all know there's one GQ in the crew. We do know that.
Oh,
we do know
yeah,
that.
And her name's Molly Karam. All right, let's work. No Steph Curry, no problem for the defending champs. I kid everybody. The Warriors outscored the Blazers by 20 points in the final 9 minutes of the game for a comeback win in Game 2 last night. Golden State is now 5-0 at home this season without Curry. Stephen A., were you more impressed with the Warriors or unimpressed with the Blazers last night?
Well, listen, let me say this. I was more impressed with the Portland Trail Blazers. I'm not going to say I was completely unimpressed with the Golden State Warriors. They are playing without their superstar yet. Klay Thompson continues to step up when it counts. Iguodala stepped up when it counted. Draymond Green just continues to do his thing. He deserves a lot of credit. Their depth, their willingness to play together, their unselfishness is admirable. But I was impressed with the Portland Trail Blazers and how they battled, because we know they're overmatched. Even without Steph Curry, they're relatively overmatched. It's pretty much about Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum and not much else, or so we thought. But when you look at Lillard, he had about 25. You look at McCollum, he had about 22. Aminu, he showed up and was playing particularly early. You just look at the other guys like a Henderson as well, Gerald Henderson, who used to be in Charlotte's, now in Portland. He tries to give you something. They were up by 17 at one point. They were up by 11 entering the fourth quarter. Portland just gives you the impression that they do all that they can do, and they're battling. They're scrappy. They've got young athletes. They're not fearful of anybody. So I give them credit where credit is due, and would say to you that they have been they were somewhat impressive in Game 2 last night. But in the end, what it comes down to is that you got to look at the Golden State Warriors and give them their props too. They underwhelm you at times, but when it counts most, they somehow, some way seem to step up, whether or not Steph Curry is on the court. And I give them a lot of credit for that, because a lot of teams can't do that without their superstar. But they're clearly doing it, and they deserve some credit for that as well.
Okay, before I get to my bottom line, I must pay my respects to the Steph-less Golden State Warriors. Stephen A. Smith, they're down 11 going into the fourth quarter. Largest deficit they'd faced all year at home. Previously, they'd faced deficits at home in the regular season of 9, 8, and 7. And, of course, they'd made up all three and won all three of those games. And they proceeded to do just the same again. And I am sorry to say, I stayed up to watch the whole thing because I thought we were about to have a series, at least a series that was going to force the hand of the Golden State Warriors to play Steph Curry in a Game 3 at Portland. And I watched 34-12 Golden State in the fourth quarter. I'm going to repeat, 34-12 was the score in the fourth quarter. And that was a moment where I sat back with about a minute left in the game, Stephen A., and I thought, you know what? I think my Spurs and those Thunders are battling their guts out for the right to finish second in the West, for the right to lose to Golden State in the conference finals. That's how impressive that squad was last night without Steph Curry. I've said before on the show, I didn't think that squad could have even made the playoffs this year in the West without Steph the whole year. I'm going to back off that. After what I saw last night, that was highly impressive. And I must throw this in. After you disrespected my school, Vanderbilt University, and its lack, you said, of basketball tradition, I just want to point out that there's this guy on Golden State named Festus Ezeli who played at my school, Vanderbilt, my alma mater, and He obviously missed 31 straight games late in the year off knee surgery, got punked on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, and then last night returned to punk the Portland Trail Blazers in the fourth quarter. Festus Ezeli last night had played 4 minutes until the fourth quarter. He played almost 9 minutes, went 4 for 4 in the fourth with 5 rebounds and a big emotional game-changing block of Plumlee. And Steve Kerr raved about, I watched the post game on TNT, Steve Kerr just raved and raved about Festus Ezeli. So now I'm back to my bottom line. I was so disappointed in Damian Lillard last night, and I realize what you point out is right. If you look at the total box score, it's impressive. But the total box score is what it was after 3 quarters. After 3 quarters, let me get my 1 through 3 box here. Damian Lillard had made 6 out of 9 3-point shots. He'd made 8 of 17 shots. He'd scored 25 points through 3 quarters. Then when the money was on the table in the fourth, when it was time to make this a series for Portland, their best player disappeared. In the fourth quarter, Damian Lillard was 0 for 3, 0 for 2 from 3. He had 1 rebound, he had 1 assist, and he scored 0 points. That won't get it done. And I'm constantly a little bit disappointed by Damian Lillard. He's got all kinds of national TV commercials. We know that. Dropping dimes, it's sensational. I can't see it enough. He's a talented rapper, is Damian Lillard. I think he's got a career in that if he so chooses, see his Adidas commercial. He's done them for Foot Locker. He's done them for NBA Store. He's all over national TV. But he did not make this year's All-Star team, and he did not show up as an All-Star in the fourth quarter with the series on the line last night at Golden State. He's capable, as we well know, of going off for 51 points coming out of the All-Star break at home against Golden State, and he's highly capable of going 0 for 3 in a fourth quarter. Rise, fall, roller coaster ride. I just don't see enough consistency from Damian Lillard to say he's a star in this league. He has star qualities to him. He has star games. And then he has average games, and it's just disappointing to me because that was his game, his deal to close last night, and he had an 11-point lead going to the fourth quarter and came up empty, and they came up empty, and this series is over because of that. Could have been at least interesting if Damian Lillard had showed up last night.
Well, first of all, I think that, you're right if all you're going off of is the fourth quarter of last night's game because he was scoreless. He was neutralized. There's no doubt about that, and you can't deny that. But Damian Lillard is a 6'2 guard. They list him at 6'3. He's not 6'3. He's 6'2, more closer to 6'2 as far as I'm concerned, if that, number one. Number two, when he gets going, that stroke of his, he can really, really get it going, as Golden State can attest to with the 51 points that he dropped on them in one contest, 38 in another. But you also have to take into account, Skip, something that you may ignore. When you think about Damian Lillard, you could sit there and say, if you got the talent, you got to find a way to get it done. On a night-in, night-out basis, sometimes you're not going to be able to do it if you are a shooter/scorer and people are looking for you to shoot the rock, and you've got to go against guys 4, 5, 6, 7 inches taller than you. Whether it's a Klay Thompson 1 minute, Iguodala the next, Harrison Barnes the next, a Sean Livingston who's 6'8", somebody like that. You have to take into consideration that height combined with that athleticism, combined with the quickness that Golden State has on defense, is problematic for a scorer. Now, you'll look at a Lillard and you'll compare him to somebody like CP3. Well, CP3 is a multifaceted weapon because not only can he score shooting from the perimeter, he can also score getting to the basket, but more importantly, as a defender against him, you're keeping your eyes on who is he looking to feed, because his primary gift is that of a facilitator. And so because of that, when you look at it from that perspective, it puts him at somewhat of a disadvantage if you're Lillard, because everyone knows you're looking to score. And because you're looking to score, they're going to be up in your face preventing the scoring option that you are, as opposed to wondering what you're going to do and potentially playing off of you. These are the kind of things I think you have to take into consideration. Again, it might be what's holding him off from being seen as that all-star compared to the Steph Currys, the Russell Westbrook, the Chris Pauls of the world. That is fair, but it ain't like the brother can't play. He can play. He can be a big-time player at times, but he's primarily a scorer, and he's a miniature one at that. And because he's miniature, going up against this Golden State squad, it's a little bit different.
I hear you. He can be a big-time scorer, and you added at times. At times, there's no doubt about that. And I'm not trying to be too negative here. I'm just trying to put it in perspective, maybe in fair and the correct perspective. On Damian Lillard, he's just overhyped. People get carried away with the 51-point games. He's not capable of sustaining that for all the reasons you just gave. In the end, he's a little bit of an undersized jump shooter, mostly a three-point shooter. In the end, that's who he is. He's not the greatest distributor. He's not the greatest driver of the basketball. He doesn't have that many moves to get to the basket. He doesn't have, he's a poor man's Steph Curry, because really all he has is just the three-point jump shot. And he needs it to be fairly open, and he needs to get hot. If he has a hot hand, as he did through three quarters, you can be in big trouble. I've seen him shoot the Spurs out of the gym before.
But again, the point that I'm making, Skip, is that everybody ain't Golden State. You got to remember, Golden State has length at practically every position. Their undersized guy is a Steph Curry, who, by the way, is not just 6'3", he's a lanky 6'3". Long arms, etc. So when you look at it from that perspective, and then you think about Iguodala, who's legitimately 6'7", and you think about a Harrison Barnes, who's legitimately 6'7", 6'8", and you think about a Sean Livingston, who's 6'8", tinkering towards 6'9", and you look at a Klay Thompson, who's your off guard, but he's 6'7" and can defend three different positions. You have length everywhere. And so because you have length everywhere, combined with speed, combined with athleticism, combined with the fact that you've got big boys like Bogut and Ezeli capable of rebounding a basketball, and everybody sprinting because they have so many shooters that are out on the court at the same time, those present big-time problems for a guy like a Damian Lillard. And I'm saying to you that you're right in terms of what you're pointing out if you're talking about him going up against Golden State. But most teams in the league don't form the formidable opposition that the Golden State Warriors form. They are a very unique crew, and that's what makes them special. If he's going up against San Antonio, he has to be primarily concerned with Danny Green or Kawhi Leonard. That's what you have to be concerned about if you're Damian Lillard. If you're going up against Golden State, you got about 5 or 6 dudes you've got to be concerned about.
So in the big picture, I look at his playoff record, Damian Lillard, it's 10-14. It's okay. He hasn't had all that much help. He did make a huge Game 6 shot, two playoffs ago, to beat the Rockets, to oust them in Portland. Big bomb of a three-point shot. I give him all that, but in the end, is he that guy? Did he have that takeover gene last night where he just said, this game belongs to me?
No.
I just don't think he does, and it's okay. I'm not being completely negative. I'm just trying to put it in some perspective. That series ended last night in the fourth quarter, 34-12. And what it showed was that Golden State, listen, I'm starting to wonder, even without Steph, I think they could give San Antonio or Oklahoma City a run for their money without Steph Curry. That's how good they looked in the fourth quarter last night.
I got you. He's very good, high second-tier player, but in terms of first-tier superstar player, no, because he's still relatively limited due to his size and his game. He is a shooter. He is a scorer.
Semis. The Heat steal Game 1 in Toronto. So how concerned should the Cavs be about a possible future matchup with Miami in the Eastern Conference semifinals? That is next. I like this song.